Welcome back. With their primary goal to serve, connect, and make space for artists in the community, the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council has been a champion for independent artists in New York City since 1973. The organization envisions a New York City where artists and communities engage in dialogue to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable society. President of the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, Craig Peterson, joins me to discuss the organization. Craig, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I gave a little bit of background about the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, but can you tell us a little bit more about the work that your organization does?
Sure. Our name is a little misleading. We've been the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council since the early 70s, and we started as a project down in the financial district to help revitalize and bring culture to the streets. It was the 70s urban blight. But in the 80s, we became the official arts council for the whole borough of Manhattan. And what that means is we're the arts council that works in partnership with the city and the state to redistribute money and grants to artists and small arts organizations up and down the borough. Every borough has an arts council. The Bronx has an arts council. And our role is to try to support artists and small arts organizations to do projects annually. And for the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, we give away about $2 million a year in grants to different artists and small arts organizations.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the programs that you have?
Sure. I mean, that is the backbone of our work, our re-granting work. But we also provide artist residencies to artists of all disciplines. We actually started as an interesting concept. We kind of thought about empty space and how to put artists into empty space. So in the early years, that meant putting art out into the streets for people to enjoy, but also we like to put artists into empty office buildings. So if there's an empty office space and the landlord is willing to give it up for a year and let artists go in and work in those spaces, we put artists in there and develop artist residency programs for them. And so that's a huge part of our work. And then we also provide artist services and in the way of providing education and financial literacy and professional development opportunities for artists.
Now, when we say artists, it's a large word. It's very loaded, and it could mean so many things. But because we're in New York City, I could imagine there's so many different types of people, that come to your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the artists that you've worked with? And it doesn't have to be like specific people, just like the overall generalized idea.
Sure. It's really important. I feel it's really important for every borough to have an arts council so that they can really understand their borough. This city changes so fast, and there are new people moving here every day, new immigrant groups, new neighborhoods popping up in every borough, and so it's really important for an arts council to be really boots on the ground and understand what are the needs of artists and to be nimble and responsive to what artists need. It's in that light, it's important for us to really get to know the communities that are out there and be able to reach into them and let them know that these resources are here. And that enables us to connect with all different kinds of arts communities, whether they're small local groups in Harlem or whether it's a well-known artist who needs a residency for a year.
Now, I understand, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, that the organization has expanded. Can you tell us a little bit more about that expansion and how it's impacted the work that you do?
Sure. As I said, our job is really to be as responsive as possible. And our most recent expansion has been, we opened an arts facility on Governor's Island, which is just located off the tip of the bottom of Manhattan. And it's a 40,000 square foot facility where we house artist residencies, we have dance studios, and we also have a gallery space where we present the work of artists, primarily in the summertime because it's a destination in the summertime. But I would say one of the most exciting things about being on Governor's Island right now is that there's a lot of work and development around climate change. And they're building a very large facility, the Climate Exchange on Governor's Island over the next 7 to 10 years. It's a big city project. And Governor's Island is going to be a place where research and activism and advocacy around climate change is really at the forefront of what everybody is working on out there. And what LMCC really wants to do in the next 5 to 10 years is to really situate artists in that conversation and see how artists can contribute to that conversation. Oftentimes we think of climate change as a science problem.
Right.
We think of artists as great storytellers, as connectors, as people who can really take an issue and bring it to the personal and make people understand that they have a role to play. And so it's really important for us to make sure that artists play a really powerful role in that community that's developing out on Governor's Island.
And I was so excited, and happy to hear that, because as you mentioned, when we talk about a lot of these larger issues that affect people, we think it's maybe like just a social justice thing or a science thing. But it's so important to use art as a platform to kind of talk about these issues. And I think it's so amazing that you're helping and assisting a lot of artists, while they're on that journey. So that was really exciting to hear. And I can't wait to see, how that will evolve. Now, speaking of evolving, your organization has been around since the 1970s. It's a very, very long time, and it's such an amazing accomplishment for an organization, especially, with everything that New York City has gone through over the many, many years. Can you talk about how LMCC just has evolved since the 1970s, now that we're in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, we've evolved along with the city. Like I said, the city changes really fast, and it's becoming very difficult for people to, find affordable housing. It's my biggest concern is people are going to stop coming to New York, especially artists. And New York has a long history of artists come here because it is New York City, and our goal is to try to figure out how to help artists build sustainable lives. And so that means teaching artists how to, do the business of art, as well as providing the resources to help them make the art. I think that it's really the role of an arts council to be responsive to the changes that are happening in your community, and that's why I think it's so important that every borough has its own arts council.
Now, I want to talk about the 50th anniversary. How did the organization celebrate that? And congratulations, by the way, because as I mentioned, for an organization to last that long and to do amazing work is an accomplishment. So can you tell us a little bit more about that celebration?
Sure. Well, we just had our big 50th anniversary gala last week, which is why I'm a little hoarse and a little tired. But we really wanted to take an opportunity to look back on our work a little bit and celebrate the artists that have come through our program. I mean, we have helped thousands and thousands and thousands of artists over the course of the last 5 decades. And so we're doing a series of events where we're inviting alumni back to commune with other alumni and do parties, do dance parties, we just recently had a party as performance, we called it, a DJ named Rochelle Kwan, who runs Chinatown Records and has a whole project where she's collected records from her neighbors and her family, and does listening parties with pop music that's been translated into Mandarin or Cantonese. And it's one way just to celebrate, as opposed to thinking about it as an exhibit or something that's stale or dull. We want to really bring our communities back into the fold and celebrate the people that we've supported.
Now, I want to expand on that a little bit. When we think of New York, as many people say, it's a melting pot. There's so many different people here. Can you talk about how your organization has prioritized diversity and kind of giving a voice and a platform or a canvas to so many of these different types of artists?
Yeah, again, that's about really being boots on the ground and really understanding your borough and how the boroughs are changing. Also, as I said, New York keeps changing, and artists keep getting relocated and moved and pushed into in the early 70s, tons of artists lived downtown. Now it's not very affordable for artists downtown. A lot of the granting that we do now, a large portion of it actually goes to Harlem and Washington Heights, because those are the more affordable neighborhoods where artists are able to live. And so it's really important for us to really think about how artists are surviving and making sure that we're reaching into communities that maybe don't think of themselves as artists, but are creators and are doing projects that are bettering their communities or bringing their communities together. And so oftentimes what we are is the first grant that an artist will get. we're sort of the entry point into people thinking, oh, maybe I can get a little money to do this community-based project at the school or the senior center in my neighborhood. And that helps us to help artists better.
And when you're awarding these grants, what are some things the organization looks for? Is there, maybe a particular message? Is there, specific requirements? Like what goes into picking somebody to receive this grant?
Well, there's very clear guidelines, and we do a whole bunch of, we do information sessions throughout the year leading up to the application process. We work hard to help people learn how to write grants and learn how to articulate what their project is intended to do. But what we're really looking for is projects that are thinking about their communities and the health of their communities and how art can lift their communities in that in the effort to improve and celebrate the cultures that live there.
Now, we talked about, celebrating 50 years. What do you hope to see for the future of the organization in the next 50 years?
That's a tough one. I mean, as I said, we've taken on this space at Governor's Island and we've developed it, and we're continuing to develop programs out there. I talked a little bit about the climate change conversation, but what we want to continue to really do is make sure that we are responding to what artists are needing, and that will change from year to year. And I'm really hopeful that in the future, we're able to expand our granting program to double it, to get more money out into the artist communities across the borough, and also to work really closely with the city and the state and the other arts councils to make sure we're building a really strong ecosystem for artists to thrive here.
I love that. And New York City is not just different boroughs. We're, a unit. So I love that you said that. Now, if there's anything, is there something you'd like to say to an artist out there who may be struggling or not really sure if their art is something that they want to put out there or they need the extra support? What is something you would say to them to get them to learn a little bit more about the organization and the way your organization can help?
Well, I think it's really important for artists to learn what resources are out there. So, I'm sure you have a big Bronx audience. Go to the Bronx Arts Council's website and learn about the programs that they have. They're an incredible organization. But if you do live in Manhattan, come to our website. But I think the most important thing is to educate yourself about what opportunities might be out there, but also take a chance, take a leap. If you believe in yourself, it's not that hard. You can actually get some money to do the work you want to do.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and talking about this.
Thank you.
To learn more about the Lower Manhattan Council, please go to their website at www.lmcc.net. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode with Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.